This is how I make these beans. This is my mom's recipe. To be honest, I wasn't sure how she made it. I think honestly these are the best beans I've ever had. Here I have 1 kilogram of black beans. Nowadays they are quite clean when you buy them, but still I like to check them just in case they have some rock or something. Whether you have to clean them or not might depend on where you bought them. But this video was recorded in Mexico. I bought these from the market, so I think we still have to double check. This step is quite simple. You can do this on a table, any surface, or maybe a tray if you want. Only thing I'm going to do is just spread them around, make sure there's no rocks or trash or anything in there. As I said, nowadays they are quite clean, but I remember doing these when I was a kid with my mom, and during that time you will find a couple rocks every single time. And of course, if you don't clean them and that rock ends up in your beans, it might become a bit painful if you find it. Once I made sure there's no rocks or anything in my beans, then I have to rinse them. Rinsing is quite simple. I like to use this container and a strainer as well. You can also do it however you prefer. What I will do is put them here and open the tap, let some water run. Once the beans are underwater, I'm going to use my hand, just move them around, try to shake them a bit. This doesn't have to take too long. I'm just going to do it for maybe 30 seconds. Once I'm done, I'm going to remove the beans, I'm going to throw this water away, and I will repeat the process maybe 2 or 3 times. Once I'm done, I'm going to throw my beans into this container. I'm going to add water again, and I will leave them soaking overnight. You don't have to leave them overnight if you don't want to, but I would recommend to give it at least 2 to 4 hours. These beans will rehydrate, they will grow a bit, so make sure you have enough space for them. We want to soak our beans overnight, because otherwise they will take longer to cook. These are the beans after soaking overnight. As you can see, there's barely any space. They grew quite a lot, so water is barely covering them. At this point, I am throwing the water away. As you can see, there's quite some color in there. Our beans have been rinsed quite enough, but I'm going to give it one last rinse. Just let some water run through them, move them around a bit, and after that, our beans are ready to start cooking. For this, I am using a pressure pot, but you can also cook it on a normal pot on the stove. I'm going to start with a bit of canola oil. I will add 1/4 of an onion, and I will use that onion to spread the oil a bit. This helps for the beans not to stick to the pot. At this point, we can throw our beans into the pot. I've seen a lot of recipes which don't even add salt at this point. Personally, I like to add a bit of salt. Personally, I like adding epazote, and I know it's something not very easy to find outside of Mexico. It's also known as Mexican tea sometimes. If you can find it, I would recommend to add this at this point. You can also find it dry as a spice. In Finland, I have only bought dry, I have never seen it fresh, but you can also use an avocado leaf as an alternative. Personally, I have been growing an avocado plant, and from time to time I will steal one of the leaves just to throw it in at this point. If you do find epazote, this is the way I usually wash it and tie it. Once you make this package, you can tie it with some thread that you can use in the kitchen. I am using this thing that it comes with. You can also add it without tying, but I'm going to take it away after cooking, so I find it just way easier to remove one package. I'm going to add now the epazote, and I'm going to add some salt. I know a lot of people don't like seasoning the beans at this point, but I prefer doing it early, because then later we can correct. All we have to do now is add some water, make sure it covers everything, and then we can start cooking our beans. How long to cook them depends on how long you were soaking the beans. If you soak them overnight, half an hour is perfectly fine. If not, if it was only 1 or 2 hours, then 45 minutes. We will count the time from the moment the pressure pot gets pressure. Once the time is up and we allow the pot to release the pressure, we can open it and we can remove the epazote, the onion, and anything we have added at this point. At this point, it is important to check that the beans are cooked properly. One way to do it is using 2 spoons, try to smash them. Don't use a lot of strength, make sure they are soft. The ideal point is when your beans are still whole, but they are soft and you can smash them easily. At this point, our beans are cooked, but we're going to still give more flavor to them. I am using a clay pot because this is what my mom usually uses. At home, I will use a normal one because I don't have a clay pot. If you have one, then you can use it if you wish. I have this pot on medium fire, and once the oil has warmed up, I'm going to throw in a whole diced onion. I want to keep my onion on medium-low fire. I want to cook it slowly. We want to take our time with this onion. We don't want to burn it, but we also don't want to caramelize it. We want just to turn it translucent. In Mexico, we would call this acitronar. Once the onion is ready, we will slowly start adding the beans, and we will do these 1 or 2 spoons at a time. Once I have added the beans, I'm going to use these to smash them. In Mexico, they call this a bean smasher, I guess because it's way more common. In other places, I have seen it sold as a potato ricer. What we will do is smash the beans until they become a paste. And you don't have to be too precise, just smash them. If you leave 1 or 2 that's not properly smashed, it doesn't really matter. This is the usual process if you want to do some refried beans, for example. But in this case, we're not going to smash all the beans. We're going to continue the process. We're going to add around 2/3 of the whole amount of beans. While you are doing this, you have to be careful with the fire. You want your pot to stay hot, but you don't want to burn anything that's in there. You want a medium-low fire. You also don't want the pot to become a bit too cold. You want to keep that simmering going. I am sure this could be a bit of a shortcut if I just throw everything into the blender and then throw it in here, but this is the recipe my mom has been using for years and years, and they are delicious, so I wanted to share the traditional way. Then you can take some shortcuts if you wish. The more beans you add, you will notice onion and beans are starting to get mixed together. You don't really need to mix anything, it will just slowly happen. When I have smashed about 2/3 of the beans, then I will throw the rest of the beans, all the water that was in there, and I'm going to mix everything together. After we have added the rest of the beans, we want to mix everything nicely. And as you can see, it's a bit dry. This is completely up to you, but I want to still boil them for a bit, so I'm going to add some water. How much water you add is completely up to you. I don't want to add too much, because I don't want it to become too watery, but I will boil it still for a while, so I don't want it to get dry. I saved some of the fresh epazote. I chopped it and I'm going to add it at this point. If you cannot find the fresh epazote, you can add the dried one, or you could even substitute for maybe some coriander, parsley, or whatever kind of flavor you prefer. This is a good time for tasting and adding more salt if it needs. I will only mix everything together. I will let it boil for about 10 minutes and our beans are ready. Beans have been boiling for 10 minutes. They are definitely ready and I cannot wait to taste them. This is how I make these beans. This is my mom's recipe. To be honest, I wasn't sure how she made it. Now she was sharing her recipe. I know the secret now. You saw it. You just have to smash half of the beans. That's what makes them so creamy and it makes them very thick, very nice. When you keep warming this up, I usually make a huge batch and then you can just keep warming it up, and it gets thicker and thicker and they become really nice. At the end, they become just like refried beans. They're delicious. You can have these just in a bowl. You don't really need anything else. You can add some fresh cheese on top. You can also have it with some bread on the side, a tortilla, some salsa. You can do whatever you want to them. You can also use them as a side dish. You can also maybe just blend this and make a soup, like a cream. Of course, this is just perfect. We always had this just available as a side dish. Whatever you ate, you could always warm this up, have a bit with whatever you were eating. If you were just hungry, you were in a hurry, just warm up a bowl of beans. Very easy, very simple. They're delicious. They have a lot of fiber, protein, everything. They're a really good option. Here in Mexico, we love beans. Stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. And yeah, I think honestly, these are the best beans I've ever had. You can have different opinions. You can have your own way, but honestly, if you haven't had this kind of beans, you should definitely try them. Hope you liked the video. Press like, subscribe, activate the bell, all those kind of things, and see you in the next one.